What's up? Thralls of Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and as always, it seems, I have an album review for you. This one, once again, has been brought to us by Screaming Toilet. Again, it's a fun site full of podcasts, reviews on movies, TV shows, music, lots of cool stuff in there. Definitely check it out. So today I'm reviewing Howling Giants, The Space Between Worlds. This comes out on the 27th, and it's on Blues Funeral Records, which is a label I'm not really familiar with. Actually, first time I've ever heard of it. These guys are from Nashville, Tennessee. They formed in 2014, and they play sort of an interesting blend of stoner metal, doom metal, and a little bit of kind of space rock. It's really interesting. Now, this is their first full length. They have, I believe, 3 EPs before this. I haven't jammed them yet. This is my first exposure to the band, and I gotta say, I'm pretty intrigued. So it opens up the song Comet Rider, and right away you get a sense of this very cool organic production. Though I thought it was interesting, I thought the drums and bass were a little bit more forward in the mix than the guitars, at least on some of these songs. Some of the production is kind of varied, where you hear the guitars more out front. Now, this is really interesting in the sense that all 3 members of this band sing. So you get a lot of cool vocal harmonies. So the vocals on this definitely remind me a lot of Torch or Big Business, and even ASG. Really melodic. Sometimes when they're isolated, at least where the main singer is singing, they feel a little flat, but generally those moments that need the extra heft, they bring in a really cool harmony, and it just captures it. Now, the song Comet Rider, right away I also noticed their drummer is really, really good. Very busy, lots of cool fills, kind of a blend between a guy like Danny Carey and Braun Daler from Mastodon. Now, it kind of bounces back and forth between these kind of jazzy stoner rock moments to kind of a flat-out doomy, sludgy sound. And it's really cool. I really like the overall sound of this. I really wouldn't call it necessarily metal. It's more on the rock spectrum, even though there are metal moments on here. It's very melody-centric, and you know, there's a lot of cool hooks in this. The most metal aspect on here, I would say, for the most part, is the drummer, because this dude is really good. Now, the next track, Nomad, brings in a little bit more of a doomier feel from the start. Very sludgy, slow, heavy riff. I have to say, I really like the chorus on this song. I thought it was particularly good. And there's a lot of really, really good choruses on here, but this was the first one I really got into, because the one on Comet Rider I thought was okay, and it was really kind of just getting used to their sound overall on that one. Now you get like an interesting little interlude almost. It kind of works as its own little song, though. It's an acoustic number, and it kind of reminded me of Baroness's Steel That Sleeps the Eye, which was a cool little interlude song on the Blue record, and I really like the overall feel of it. It almost feels kind of singer-songwriter, Americana storytelling in there, and there's a lot of storytelling in terms of the lyrics. It's traveling and such, and seeing the world. It's really, really good. I think it's kind of an interesting theme for the entire album. Now, the song The River Guide instantly reminded me of Sleep. This one came in stonery, very fuzzy, warm tone, but it still had some heft to the guitars. And the vocal harmonies kind of reminded me of a band I recently saw in Canton, Ohio, called Forming the Void, which I brought up in a collection update, and I've really gotten into here lately. So that was kind of a nice little familiar area for me. Now, an interesting part of the song is it kind of moves into this spacey bridge where there's spoken word lyrics, where you almost feel like you're kind of getting a sci-fi narrative of some kind. And it actually has kind of a sci-fi feel to it. It really was an interesting moment in there. They kind of slowly builds in this bridge, and there's lots of layered Hammond organ keys in there. When the drums kick in on this part, it really starts to give like a Pink Floyd vibe overall, which, you know, that's something I always enjoy. But it comes right back to that very sleep style stoner metal towards the end, so it kind of bookends that moment, and this little interlude in between really stands out. So a lot of cool songwriting dynamics on this. Now, the first single, I believe, on this was the song Cybermancer and the Doomsday Express, which As soon as I saw that album title, I had to think, was that the actual working title of the band's name for a while? And then they was like, no, we can just make that into a song. This one is just a really interesting jam. It kind of reminds me of desert rock, kind of like Fu Manchu, but at the same time, it has a very 70s vibe and a 90s vibe at the same time, because there's bits of like 90s alternative in there as well. Really catchy song, very upbeat, and there were parts of that even reminded me of a band like Helmet, especially in the vocals. The vocals, well, Page may not be the best vocalist, he had a pretty interesting delivery that was very distinct, and there were parts in there that definitely reminded me of that. Now it kind of ends more on the space rock side, but it brings in some really cool effects-drenched solos. This is where the album really started to pick up and really garner my interest on here, because the last 3 tracks on this album are absolutely epic, and they're the longest songs on here. All of them over 6 minutes, one of them's nearly 8 minutes, and all of them showcase a lot of amazing songwriting skill in here. Everlight has this really cool tribal rhythm that it builds on, and once again that drew a lot of comparisons to Danny Carey, and there are even some Tool-ish moments on this too. But then it moves into like sort of a bluesy space rock sort of lead, and then it really works well with these cool melodies with both the guitars and the vocals. That kind of moves into like almost like a blues rock / space rock sort of part in there, and it has really cool like interplay between the vocal melodies and the guitar melodies. Well, the vocals are using sort of a chant-like sound to them, the guitars are interplaying over that, and it has this really cool, almost hypnotic feel to it. You know, something I kind of look for out of, you know, stoner metal, because you kind of want to be just kind of taken off the fucking planet for a minute. This song really shifts around, there's a lot of cool dynamics in here, but it doesn't feel like a meandering jam session, it feels very deliberate. The writing is really exceptional on this, and you're drawn in further with each passing moment in this song. This is one of my favorite ones on the entire album. Now the next song, The Orb, starts off with this kind of jazzy, almost kind of bouncing rhythm to it. I really enjoyed it. It had a cool bass line under it. And while you think you're going to get another kind of song like Everlight, it all of a sudden shifts gears in this triplet chugging that it really reminded me of the Sword's first 2 albums in particular, because as much as they like the just straight up riff rock, they loved a good chug here and there, and they kind of caught me off guard. I really wasn't expecting it, and I kind of liked that it surprised me. I thought I knew where it was going, and took me in a completely different direction, and once again, the song sunk its hooks into me. The contrast in mood going from a very chill song to a very amped, high-energy song was a really, really cool moment in this. Now it kind of ended a little bit abruptly for me, but it kind of curtailed in this cool keyboard outro, which really reminded me a lot of the keyboard work on Typo Negative, honestly. It kind of had this cool, somber, almost gothic feel to it. And then Stone Giant, the last track, is probably the most metal-centric one on there. This one is a straight-up riff rocker with lots of cool dynamics on there. It really reminded me a lot of early Mastodon, except with entirely clean vocals across it. There's really cool guitar harmonies across it, and a particular part where the bassist brings out the giant fuzz tone and just brings it. It's just a killer moment there, and that curtails into a very, very doomy riff that closes the album. So overall, I'm going to give this one 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this album. It's not without some minor flaws in it, maybe just in production, or sometimes the vocals came across a little flat. But overall, the songwriting and how well constructed these songs were, and the fact that they were very different from song to song, really, really got me. This is a really exceptional album. If you love stoner metal, doom metal, or you just want to hear something even a little bit proggy too, definitely check this band out. I'm eager to hear any future releases from them. I'm probably going to look for their EPs as well. So, if you like the review, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do shit like this all the time. Tons more reviews coming. Catch you guys later.